Peace, family. Peace meaning positive energy always creates elevation. And so with that being said, first and foremost, I want to say free to God Rashad Jamal, man. I'm going to have to do another update on the God Rashad Jamal, man, because, I feel like it's important that we keep that guy in the light in terms of, everything that's going on with his situation. Because, I feel like he's a very important asset to the culture. All right? And, I mean, even when it comes to me, it was a lot of things that he said and that he taught that woke me up in terms of me wanting to get out there and do the research necessary in order to evolve spiritually, all right? He played a big role. So with that being said, man, I want to say free to God, Rashad Jamal, and y'all could be looking forward to me giving him, more updates or giving you more updates on him, all right? And so with that being said, if I got you here, man, and you have not already liked and subscribed to this channel, please go ahead and hit that subscription button. Also, please do not forget to hit that like button because it pushes us up through the algorithm and more people will be able to get this information. All right. So I'm here as promised, man, with the story of Yakub. Okay. And so as you can see, I'm going to be doing this a little bit different because I felt like I wanted to give you guys more of a visual in terms of, what these interterrestrial beings look like. All right. And as you can see on the screen, this is a picture of the big head scientist Yakub as he ultimately came to be known as, all right? And so I felt like in terms of telling you guys his story, we had to go all the way back into the roots of his family, his tribes, which came from the inner earth, so on and so forth, because everything about his story is so important in terms of understanding why he did what he did and how he became the way that he was. You see what I'm saying? And so this is an Anunnaki god, all right? He's a descendant, all right? But he stayed on the outer earth, which we will go into in terms of this story, all right? And so we're going to be talking about 3 different beings in terms of that live in the inner earth. Now, there are more beings that stay in the inner earth. And so what you need to understand or understand before we get into this story is that Planet Kai, which is the traditional name of this planet that we stay on that is now called Planet Earth, at one point was more so like a resort for all of the interterrestrials that did not live. I mean, not interterrestrials, but the ones who are interterrestrials now, they were outer terrestrials that came to this planet. They would come to this planet and visit this planet looking for minerals and natural resources. All right. And so to make a long story short, which we will be doing on this channel as well, we're going to go into the story of how the first meteorite took place, which caused a lot of these beings to have to flee the surface of the earth and take places where they, go to places where they could hide in the inner. Some of them chose the inner earth. So you have to understand that the inner earth does have a sun. There is a sun inside the inner earth. All right. And so it's a long story about how that sun actually got inside the earth. But, it ultimately happened from, Nibiru's route here. Okay. Because Nibiru ended up crashing into a planet called Meldeck. Okay. And so Meldeck thought it was under attack. To make a long story short, it sent out 4 ships that were known as the North, East, South, and West Wind, okay? And so these ships ended up attaching to it because Nibiru ended up activating this gravitational field, which caused these ships to lose control and shut down and ultimately end up being stuck inside its gravitational pull, all right? And so in the midst of that, a few things took place, which I don't want to get into right now because I feel like that's a whole nother video in itself, all right? But a few things did take place in terms of how, they ended up, this sun ended up actually getting into, the earth, and how the first meteorite that happened on this planet actually happened. It happened, it was associated with a crash that took place in which Nibiru crashed into Planet Kai and knocked a big chunk out of Planet Kai and caused this big meteorite to happen, all right? Which then caused these terrestrials, which are the ancient people, that were living on the earth to actually hide and run and take, cover in the earth behind waterfalls, so on and so forth. All right. And so this is the story you hear when you talk about what happened with the dinosaurs eventually dying and things like that, which we will do a video on there, right? And so I just felt like I had to explain that so you guys would know that there are beings that live inside the earth even to this day. And because these beings don't die, you can say that they still live inside the earth. All right. And so one of these beings, a group of these beings that lived inside the earth would be the Yashuk. Okay. And this is the Yashuk right here. Okay. Now these beings, as you can tell, they're dark beings. All right. They're black beings, because you have to understand that at one point in history, the whole planet was black. Okay. It was a dark planet. It was a melanated or carbonated planet. You understand what I'm saying? And so, as you can tell, these beings have heads that's way bigger than what the normal human being would be. You know what I'm saying? And they're said to stand about 5 to 7 feet tall. All right. And so they also have like telekinetic abilities. All right. And they're known to be geniuses as well. All right. And so when we talk about these tribes, because you have to understand that as above, so below, this tribe also had a chief, someone that ran the tribe, that ruled over the tribe. All right. And so the person that ruled over the tribe, his name was called Fucor. And this is a depiction of Fucor. All right. And now Fucor actually had a daughter by the name of Prince Radiar. All right. And this is Prince Radiar. All right. As you can see, this is a melanated being. These were considered to be deities. This is what you have to understand. Okay. These were considered, and for those of you who don't understand what the word deity is, the word deity means God. All right. These are considered to be gods. All right. And so he also had 2 brothers as well. All right. And one of his brothers' name was Elmo or Emo. Right. This is his brother Emo that you're looking at right here. As you can tell, he's a dark being. All right. And what you have to understand about this group of individuals right here, this group of individuals was actually seen to be, a noble group of beings. All right. And he also had another brother by the name of Yashuk. All right. Now, Yashuk was always jealous of Fucor. All right. He always had hate in his heart for Fucor. All right. So I feel like that's important for you guys to know in terms of us going into the story, because when we talk about what's going to take place, you have to understand the motives behind what actually took place. All right. And so also there were other beings, another group of beings that stayed right across from the village of the Yashuk, which were called the Shinings. These were the Shinings right here, guys. And so what you have to understand about the Shinings is, well, you know what? Let me go back because I never fully really explained what happened with this group of people, because I feel like it's important. I don't want to miss a detail. All right. So when you talk about the Yashuk village or the Yashuk community, you have to understand that these beings, what they would do is they would sometimes come to the surface of the earth, and they would teach and trade with the beings on the surface earth, because this is what they called them. They called them surface dwellers. All right. So they would sometimes come to the surface of the earth, and they would basically teach and trade with these people. All right. And because their teachings were so unique, they were often seen as like seers, gods, prophets, and gods and things like that. All right. So because of this, it was made, they had to put a rule in place and forbid their people to ever go back to the surface of the earth, because they felt like it kind of unbalanced the surface dwelling. It unbalanced how they interacted or how they moved on the surface world. Okay, because you have to understand this is an ancient group of people, and their teachings and things like that was way, way, way ahead of what they knew, because they had come from, other planets that were way more advanced than these newer group of beings that dwelled on the surface of the earth. All right. And so Emo, which is let me go back to Emo for you guys. Emo, he ended up falling in love with a mortal, all right? And the reason I say this was mortal, because you have to understand these individuals on the inner earth, they did not die, all right? This group of people, they do not die. And this is where you hear the story where they say also that one day to God is like 1,000 years to us, okay? Because one day to us is like 1,000 years to them on the inner earth, all right? So these people did not get younger, or they did not die, all right? Because of whatever was going on in the inner earth, all right? And so he fell in love with a mortal being, and he would often sneak back and forth from the inner earth to the surface earth to meet her, all right? And while he was up there, he would play the role of a priest, or a high priest, or a magician, all right? And because of this, he ended up getting caught, all right? And so when his brother Fucor, all right, found out about this, let me go back to Fucor for you guys. When Fucor found out about this, he banished him, because I feel like he banished him because he didn't want to take the chance of them blowing their cover, because he had fallen in love with a mortal, and coming back and forth could lead someone to probably follow them back into the inner earth, and it would blow, it would basically put their living situation in jeopardy, all right? And so Elmore was eventually banished to stay on the surface earth. He was no longer welcome to come back to the inner circle of the earth, all right? And so you have to understand, because they never died inside the inner earth, this was saw as a punishment of death, all right? So everything I'm telling you guys really plays a role in how Yakub, eventually came about. All right. So now let's get back to the Shining. All right. Now, what you have to understand about these people is, man, these are highly, highly intelligent beings as well. All right. And these beings also range from anywhere from about 5 to 7 feet tall. All right. And they're hairless beings with cone-shaped heads. All right. And they also range from a variety of colors, y'all, as you can see. They range anywhere from dark to a lighter color. All right. And one thing about this group of people right here is they're known for their fighting spirit. This is a fighting group of people, all right? These people are actually known for their fighting spirit, all right? And so just like the Yashuk people, they were often these group of people would often come up and they would interact with group of surface dwellers as well, which they even made it with some, okay? And I have a depiction of that as well. I want to show you guys, because I feel like, it's important that we see the proof that's in the pudding, because they would tell you guys that these group of people are actually fake, but when in all actuality, this is real. So as you can see, this is the depiction right here of the Almec people. They would carve these people, sculptures of these people, to show you that basically, these people really existed. All right. So they would carve these people up. Excuse me, y'all. All right. So also they came up to they would mate with they commingled and things like that with the Egyptians as well. All right. They also commingled with the Egyptians. All right. And so as you can tell in this depiction right here. All right. And so the chief of their tribe was King Lonzo. And see, you have to understand, when it comes to this group of people, as I told you guys on several occasions, man, they give you guys depictions of these group of people and try to make it seem like, this was something that they came up with, when in all actuality, these group of people existed. But they give you a depiction of them in the form of entertainment, because they feel like if they give you these people in the form of entertainment, then, you guys are automatically going to believe it's a lie, all right? And so this is Lonzo right here. This is the chief of the Shining, all right? They live in the inner circle, right? And he also had a daughter by the name of Lucina. And this is Lucina right here, as you can see. So I felt like I wanted to give you guys a real visual so you can actually see the people that I'm talking about, right? And what you have to understand about these people is they range from a different color, but they also had cone heads, all right? These people also had cone heads, and I'm finna get into something else because I know it's a lot of you out here out here that's actually my age, all right? And you actually remember the movie Conehead. And so he had a son named Prince Achief. This is Prince Achief. As you can see, he has a cone head, and he's darker than his sister would be. All right? And so, like I told you guys, for those of you who have never seen the movie Conehead, this is the truth. They give you the truth in the form of a lie, which is entertainment, because they know if they give you the truth in the form of entertainment, that you won't believe it. You will just believe that it's a movie. All right? But they depicted these people because they have to give you the truth. It's part of universal law that they have to give you the truth. And since they know they have to give you the truth, they're going to give you the truth in the form that you will believe that the truth is nothing but a lie. You feel me? So as you can see, the movie The Conehead depicted these beings with cone heads. All right? And you just took it for entertainment. And also, as you can see, I told you, the Egyptians and the Almec people, what did they do? They carved these people. Look, it's carvings of these people right here. They came out, they made it, they traded, and things like that. All right, and so the Shining, they grafted a group of beings on their planet called the Shamin. I was looking for some footage because I know they had a group of these beings that they depicted in the movie. This is the Shamin, all right? They depicted these group of individuals in the movie as well, y'all. I could not find that movie for you guys, man. But I got this photo right here for you guys, man, to see. All right. Now these are grossly obese beings, all right, with long elephant-like noses, and they're also pale in color. All right. Now you have to understand that these are very negative and aggressive beings. All right, and they were manifested from the Shinings. They grafted these people before they actually came to this planet on their home planets. All right. They grafted these people. They created them, all right? And so you have to understand that because they created them, it was their job to maintain them and keep them in trouble because these were, I want to say, for those of you who don't understand, these were evil beings, all right? They caused a lot of trouble and mischief on the inner earth or on their planet, all right? And so it was a rule in the inner earth that because they came from their planet and they were grafted from them, that the Shining actually had to govern them and keep them in check, all right? And so I felt like it was necessary for you to see these three things because as we go into the story, you know the three type of inner terrestrial beings that we're talking about. All right. And so one day what happened was these group of beings, the Shinings, wherever they were being kept in the inner earth, they ended up getting free. All right. And they traveled over to the village of the Yashuk. All right, they traveled over to these guys' village, and they ended up causing mischief in their village by raiding the village, terrorizing the people and eating up all of their foods. All right, and so when this happened, King Fucor ended up sending a telekinetic message over to King Lonzo, which you can see right here. This is King Fucor. And this is King Lonzo, all right? So King Fucor sent the message over to King Lonzo, a telekinetic message, and told him, because word had got back to King Fucor that the Shining beings, I mean, not the Shining, but the Shamin, which are these beings right here, they were over there terrorizing their community, raiding the community, terrorizing the people, and eating up all the food in the community. So King Fucor sent him a telekinetic message and let him know, hey, you ain't doing your job because at this very moment, the Shamin are over here terrorizing my village and, basically eating up all the food. All right. And so when King Lonzo got this message, he basically gathered up a group of not this. This is Lucina. He gathered up a group of his soldiers and went over to the Yashuk village. All right, and he ended up gathering up the Shamin and running them back to wherever it was they came from. Now, once he did this, he offered an apology to Fucor, which King Fucor accepted, but he never really forgave him. So this caused a lot of beef to be kept amongst these two villages. All right, and so because it was a lot of beef amongst these villages, and King Lonzo wanted to basically he wanted to reconcile the beef. He didn't want them to have beef amongst each other. So he offered King Fucor, Princess Lucina, up to be his wife. All right? Which King Fucor accepted it. He accepted King Fucor, King Lonzo's offer, his gift, okay, in order to reconcile. And as a gesture of his, because it was, you have to understand, this was a custom on the inner earth, that once King Lonzo offered his daughter up to be his wife, that King Fucor had to do the same. So he offered Princess Dier up, okay, to be his wife, okay. I mean, not Dier, Radier, okay. He offered her up to be his wife, okay. And so, with that being said, this caused the beef between them to basically, be over with. All right? For a while. So the beef between these two was eventually over with for a while. All right? But see, Princess Lucina, she never wanted to be given off to King Fucor as a wife, all right, because she felt like, her being a certain race and him being a certain race, she felt like it would be better for her to marry someone that resembled her and was from her culture, all right, and her being married into these cultures, as you can see the difference in their resemblance and things like that, she felt as if she stuck out like a sore thumb in their community and things like that, and that she didn't fit in. You feel me? And so this made her very, very angry. All right? And so it caused her to harbor hate in her heart for King Fucor. All right? And so as I told you guys about King Fucor's brother, Yashuk, who was jealous of him, he ended up meeting Princess Dier. Not Dier, Princess Lucina. I don't know why I keep saying that, y'all. He ended up meeting Princess Lucina. All right? And they kind of bonded through the hate that they had for the king, because he was always jealous for the king as if he had wanted his spot, okay? And she grew to dislike him because she felt like it was his fault that, that she ended up in a village that she didn't want to be in. And so because back through the bonding that they had, they started to basically plot and scheme behind King Fucor's back, basically to have an affair. All right? And so in doing so, they would end up sneaking back and forth to the surface world to their other brother Emo's house, okay? Where they would have this affair at. They would sneak back and forth and have this affair at Emo's house. All right. Well, eventually, she ended up getting pregnant. All right. Princess Lucina ended up getting pregnant by the brother Yashuk. All right. And she understood that at this point and moment, knowing that she was pregnant, she wouldn't be able to go back to the inner world in the state that she was in. Okay. Because they both knew that this was against the rules of the inner earth. He was a king, and he plotted against his brother and ended up having intercourse with, Princess Lucina. All right? And ended up having a baby. So they knew it was a possibility that they would be sentenced to death. All right? So instead, they decided to stay on the surface world and give birth to the child and raise him there for a total of 5 years. All right? And so while they stayed there, Yashuk ended up working as a scientist and calling himself a high priest, all right? And so this went on for a while, and they were missing from the inner earth, and finally message got back to the king, because, you know, it's his wife. He looking for his brother. What's going on? Where they been? You understand what I'm saying? So message ended up getting back to him that they were, to King Fucor, that these two had ran away together to their brother Emo's house, and that they were basically, you know, had an affair, and it was a child had been born in the midst of the affair, all right? And so once he found this out, he ended up sending a group of soldiers up to Emo's house to get his brother and Princess Lucina, all right? And so once he found out, you know, about the baby, so on and so forth, he ended up sentencing his brother Yashuk to death, all right? But he allowed Princess Lucina to live because she had gave birth to a child, and he felt like, you know, it was necessary for her to have to raise the child in order for the child to grow up properly, all right? So they weren't evil beings, you know, but his brother had to go because his brother, you know, he was totally out of line for doing the things that he did, all right? And so, but even though he allowed her to live, she was unable to go back to the inner earth, all right? She was banned from the inner earth for a lifetime, which, as I told you guys, because these beings on the inner earth didn't die, it was like almost as if she was, you know, there was a death sentence for her, all right? So, you know, by Yashuk being sentenced to death and her being banned from, and her being banned from the inner earth, this caused her to basically become stressed out because she had to raise a child and things like that. And, you know, all of this with her not being able to go to the inner earth and so on and so forth, this caused her to commit suicide. All right? And when she committed suicide at the time, her son, which was, you know, baby Yakub, was basically, it caused him to go into a state of depression and things like that, all right? And it made him hate his father's people, all right? Because his father, you have to understand, sentenced him to death and sentenced her to basically live on the inner earth, which ultimately caused her to commit suicide and kill herself, and left him alone to have to live with his uncle, Emo, all right? So he was actually raised by Emo, all right? So this video is going to cut short, but I'm going to come back and end up finishing telling this story, all right? And so because of this, he became distressed and things like that because he felt all alone, and he vowed revenge, all right? He vowed revenge on his father's people, okay, which was considered to be the Albinoid, darker race, okay? They were considered to be a darker race of people, which were considered to be the black people. So he vowed revenge on them, okay? And so, you know, him going to school, he started school, and they would tease him about his big head, because you have to understand, when Yakub was born by his mother having a large head and his father having a large head, this gave him an even enormous head, okay? Because his brain, he had a way bigger brain, all right, than like a normal being that lived on the inner earth, that lived in the inner earth or the outer earth, because of the two combinations of the birth, okay? So he got teased a lot about this, which made him want to have seek revenge even more, all right? And so let me just go ahead and quickly start this video over. All right, we back, y'all. And so with that being said, man, like I was saying, this caused Yakub to basically want revenge against the Ebenoid people, which are basically the darker group of people, all right? And this is because he felt like, you know, his uncle Fucor was the reason why he lost his mother and his father, all right? And so this made him want to seek revenge, because you have to understand, Yakub was only five at the time, all right? And it caused him to basically, you know, go into a state of depression, because, you know, he would go to school and things like that, and they would tease him about his head, which only made him want revenge more, because, you know, as you can tell by this picture, he had an even bigger head than what he would normally have. And this is because, you know, the combining of his father and his mother made him have a way larger head. This isn't his father. This is Emo. This made him have a way larger head, which well, a brain. All right, and it actually made him more intelligent. All right, and this is his mother and his father. This caused him to made him more intelligent. All right, and so he basically vowed revenge. All right, and so one day Yakub was playing with magnets, and he noticed that in the magnetism, alikes repel and unalikes attract. And noticing this, it gave him motivation to basically want to create a group of people that was unlike any other. All right, and so he wanted this group of people to be a weak group of people, but he wanted them to also be strong enough that they would be able to attract, the people that lived on the surface. All right. And so when he noticed this, he went to his uncle Emo, and he told his uncle Emo, man, look, when I get older, where's Emo? He went to Emo and said, look, man, when I get older, I'm gonna create a race of people that's gonna rule over y'all. Meaning the Ebanoid people, the darker race of people, because as I've said at the time, it was nothing but black people. The world was black at the time. There was no other race of people living on this world. All right. And so he told him, like, I'm gonna create a group of people that's going to rule over you guys. All right. And he was like, what group of people is that? He was like, a group of people that's going to cause mischief and bloodshed amongst the land. This is what he told his his uncle Emo. And at the time, Yakub was only 6 years old. And this is when he actually found out his purpose for birth. Because you have to understand that the elders of the inner earth already knew that Yakub was going to be born. They prophesied about it before he was actually born, all right? And he knew that Yakub knew that his purpose for birth was actually to rule over us, to be an enemy of us, and to cause bloodshed and mischief amongst the land, to kill, steal, and destroy, which is why you see him being linked so much with Satan. All right, or Yakub, because you have to understand that Satan and Lucifer are actually two different beings. All right, and so he said, he told his uncle basically, I know what you don't know. All right, and so Yakub knew in order to do this, he was going to have to go to school and study biology, genetics, and chemistry. All right, and so basically, he went to school and went hard, all the way to the point of he went so hard that when he was by the age of 18, he had already graduated college. All right? Yakub had already graduated college at the age of 18. All right? And this is what, in college is actually where he earned his name, the Big Head Scientist, because, they would tease him about his head and his ability to be smart enough to basically pass with honors, all right? In terms of science. So they called him Yakub, the Big Head Scientist. All right. And so after Yakub ended up graduating college, he went on to basically teach this doctrine that he told his uncle he was going to use to basically have the people that he would create rule over us for 6,000 years, which was be through trickery and lies, all right, and deceit. All right. And so this doctrine that he went on to teach was named 120 Degrees of Trickology. All right. And I'm pretty sure many of you have probably heard the name of that book. Okay. And so he went on amongst the people of the land, and he started to teach this doctrine. And as he started to teach this doctrine, a lot of people started to gravitate toward him because he would tell them that, if they would follow the doctrine that he was teaching, that they would be able to rule over the other races on the planet for over 6,000 years through it. All right. And so the more he taught, the more the word spread until it eventually ended up getting back to the king that was basically running the land at the time. Okay. And so because he was teaching that he would be able to rule over a race of people for 6,000 years, this basically intimidated the king of the land to the point where he ordered Yakub and all of his followers to be rounded up and taken down to the jail. But by this time, Yakub had basically gained over 60,000 followers, and it was too much for them to lock up. And so, even though he had Yakub locked up, his doctrine was still being taught amongst the lands, and this forced him to have to go down to the jail and and make a deal with Yakub in order for him to have his teachings stop being taught at the time. All right, and so they eventually came to a deal where the king offered to basically give Yakub the things that he needed, such as money and whatever else he would need in order to run a civilization for 20 years. And in return, Yakub told him that he would stop teaching basically the doctrine amongst any other people. All right. And then after 20 years, Yakub agreed to basically leave the land. All right. And so after the 20 years passed up, which after they came to the agreement, 20 years had passed, and the king told his soldiers to basically go round up Yakub and his followers and put them on a boat and get them up out of here. All right. And so Yakub, was a man of his word, and he rounded up all of his followers, and they ended up getting on a boat, which sailed off toward the island of Patmos, which is known today as the island of Patmos. All right. And so once they got on this boat, Yakub started to put his plan in place by orchestrating a human grafting program. All right. See, what you have to understand is that Yakub knew that it was two different genetics that he had inside of him. All right. One being the lighter one, as you can see with his mom, and the other one being the darker one from his father. All right. And so his plan was basically to extract the more lighter gene from the darker one in order to create what would be called a group of ebonoid beings. All right. And so how he went about doing this was he ended up basically having intercourse with the women on the ship. All right. And in the midst of him having intercourse with the women on the ship, they would give birth to children. Well, Yakub would take the darker children and he would throw them over the boat, all right, and kill them because he didn't want to basically, have any darker beings living. He wanted to create the lighter being, all right? And so when his followers got wind of what was going on, they didn't agree with it because a lot of them didn't sign up for that. See, the only reason they started to follow him is because they believed that he would give them the knowledge that was necessary in order to rule over the people for 10,000 years. 6,000 years. He didn't know that he was going to be killing babies by throwing them over the ship in order to create the group of beings that he wanted. All right. And so in the process of him doing this, he ended up losing over 95% of his followers, which left him with only 5% of the followers during the time. All right. And so when they finally made it to the island, him and his 5% of the followers that he had remaining, he immediately put what is known today as Planned Parenthood in effect. All right. And so what his Planned Parenthood did was it stopped the darker races of people from having children on the land. In fact, any darker race of people, he ended up killing them all off. All right. And any lighter people that would give birth to darker children, he would immediately have them killed. All right. He would have them killed. And in fact, he ordered the nurse to go down and prick the babies in the head with a needle as soon as they left the womb. All right. As soon as their head stuck out the womb. All right. And he had such a hate for us that he would even have these babies, these dead babies, fed to the wild beast of the land at the time. All right. And if it was no wild beast for him to feed the baby to, he just had them burnt. All right. And so this went on for years and years and years. All right. With Yakub teaching his grandsons this and his sons this and his children, his grandchildren, the same ideologies. All right. And so, Yakub being, the father of trickery and things like that, he also taught these group of beings that, that God was a spirit rather than a real person, because you have to understand that Anu, which is, the Almighty, that's the Almighty, he's actually a black being, all right? He's a black individual, all right? When you get into us manifesting ourselves from black matter energy and things like that, then you understand. But I do feel like that's another a video that we would have to get into later on down the line, all right? And so he went on, teaching them all of these lies and trickery, in order to get them to do the things he need all the way up until the day of his death, okay, in which he died at the age of 150 from a brain tumor, all right? And what a coincidence that he would die from a brain tumor, him being as smart as he was, all right? And so it took about, I want to say, over 600 years for him to basically graft the group of people that he was trying to get. What is the people that is known today as the modern day Caucasians, all right? And so once this group of people was actually made, they went back to the land in which they were created, because Yakub left them instructions that they needed to follow once the final group of people was created, all right? And so they ended up, being a very malevolent or evil group of people. And so they ended up going back to the land that they were kicked off from before they ended up getting onto these boats, guys. And once they ended up going back to the land, it took them every bit of like 6 months to cause chaos amongst the land. They had the people in the land fighting amongst each other. They had them going to war and everything else under the sun. You understand what I'm saying, see? All right? And so it finally hit the king that all the chaos and corruption that was going on in the village was due to the Ebonoi people that had eventually come into the community. So he ordered a group of his soldiers to gather them up, all right, strip them of their clothing and give them aprons and things like that, because obviously he didn't want them walking around the community naked. You understand what I'm saying? So he ended up giving them aprons, and he had them pushed off into the land of Europe, all right? And so this is where you get the story, well, actually to the land of Europe, into the mountains, all right? And so he had his soldiers basically patrol the area to see to it that they would never leave the mountains, all right? And this happened for about 2,000 years. And this is where you get the story from the Caucasians actually coming from the Caucasus Mountains of Europe and things like that, all right? And so they stayed in these mountains for about 2,000 years, in which they started to basically lose their ability to be civilized, all right? They started to basically grow hair all over their body, neglect their hygiene, and they forgot how to walk upright and things like that. They would hunt animals and basically, use their fur as clothing and things like that to keep warm, all right? And so after 2,000 years had passed, one of the kings that was ruling the land decided to give them a shot. So he sent a representation of our people over to them to basically get them re-civilized, teach them how to walk, talk, eat right, so on and so forth, all right? And get them back, ready so that they can be civilized. Wanted to give them a chance, because you have to understand, we are naturally empathetic people, all right? And so once he was able to get them re-civilized and basically open up the gates to basically have them come back to the community, they stabbed them in the back. They killed them, all right? They did what they was taught, all right? They did the things that they were basically genetically grafted to do. They snaked them, all right? And so from that point on, they just went around the world basically conquering us and with lies and deceits, all right? Deceitfulness, all right? And how they did this was they would use us against each other, all right? They would turn me against my brother, all right? And then they would basically use tactics of divide and conquer. This is how they conquered us, all right? And so this is how you see what basically is going on in today's society when we think that God is a spook. Yakub taught this to them, and they taught this to other generations. And eventually, when they began to rule over us for the 6,000 years that they have ruled over us, they taught us this. You understand what I'm saying? This is how you get basically, the story of them being in the Caucasus Mountains, as I just said earlier before, all right? The spell of sleep, all right? And what you guys need to basically understand is that now that 6,000 years is over with, all right? And we're starting to come out of the spell that was placed over us and starting to come back into the knowledge of who we were as a people and who we are, being the gods that we are, all right? And so with that being said, man, I hope you guys enjoyed this story that I told you guys, man. And if you did, please go ahead and like this video up. Also share it. so that it can grow in the algorithm and other people can get this information as well, all right? And I want to leave you guys always as I come, right? And with that being said, I want you guys to always, always stay aware, because to be aware is to be alive. And as always, peace, family. Peace meaning positive energy always creates elevation.